What's up guys, Marcus here from Studio One Expert, and in today's video we're going to have a quick review of the new plugin by Waves, Smack Attack, which is a transient shaper type plugin with some extra kind of added cool features that I haven't seen in that many other transient shaper plugins. So to start off with here, let's have a really quick look at the GUI. So we've got our attack and our sustain. We've got an amount slider on both of these, or a dial rather. Then we've got a sensitivity, which acts kind of like a threshold, and we'll get into a little bit more detail of this later on. And we've got that same sensitivity threshold slider for both attack and release. Then we've got different attack and sustain shapes, where we've got a short one here, another one here. You can kind of see graphically just by the GUI what they're doing. Then we've got a duration slider, so I can make adjustments to the duration of the attack and the sustain. Then we've got a dry wet mix knob, which is really cool because you can use it to dial in some really gritty, aggressive sounds, and then you can blend them in if you're using the plugin inline on, say, a stereo drum loop or a bus of some sort. And then we have an output, so we can compensate for any output that's been increased or decreased. And then we've got, in terms of our guard, we've got three different modes. We've got off, which means that there's no guard, and we'd have to use our output. We've got a clip, which does a soft clipping type of thing. And then we've got a limiter. So to start off with here, let's leave this set to off. Now, a quick note on the duration and the actual shape of the attack and the sustain. I'm just going to open up my preview over here. And this is one thing that I always recommend that people do is whenever you're looking at a plugin, just click this little question mark on the Waves plugins, and it will actually open up a PDF, which gives you a really simple overview and it explains everything. So with these attack shapes and the sustain shapes, you can kind of get a real good idea here. We have needle, nail, and blunt. And these kind of just show you even graphically what's happening here with the attack when you are flipping through these different settings over here. And also, if I go down a little bit further, we have the sustain shape. So you can see exactly what's happening here with a graphic representation on the GUI as well. So really, really handy to get into a habit of actually reading these because they do help. So let's, enough talking, let's have a quick listen to some different examples over here. I've got two different percussion examples, and then I've got kind of a beat that's got some chopped samples in it. And then lastly, I've got a pluck sound. So what I thought we would do is just have a listen to some of these different elements over here and see how this plugin performs. Okay, so first off, let's start off with some basic acoustic drums over here. So to start off with, we have nothing happening. Let's have a quick play. Okay, now we can just start adjusting some things. I'm going to leave this on nail for now, and let's just start messing with the sensitivity and the attack and the sustain. So as we push this up, you can see that we're drawing in more attack. Now I have a threshold here. You'll see as I pull that all the way down the sensitivity to 0, it's barely doing anything. If I crank it up, it gets real aggressive. Okay, my limiter, my safeguard limiter that I keep on my output over here is squashing things pretty hard. So let's go ahead and let's just engage our limiter for now. Now the limiting is happening over here now. We've also got a clip mode, which does a soft clipping thing. So that's pretty cool. Now one thing we can do here is we can dial in something aggressive and we can blend it. So there's our dry, and let's just dial this up a little bit. And bring up the duration a little bit. So there's our unprocessed sound bypassed. And there we have a dry wet blend of the Smack Attack. So very cool for drums. I really, really like what I'm able to do, especially with that blend control. Next up, let's have a listen to something a little bit more worldly. And I've just gone ahead here and dialed in some basic sounds where I've just accentuated the instrument. We can adjust these sensitivities for more or less. So I pulled back the sensitivity on the attack. Let's just pull it up again. And you can kind of really hear it start to really adjust the front end transients there. And the sustain as well. Now I've got this set to 100% wet. Let's go to limit mode over here. Try some of these different shapes. This one kind of has that dip, and this is more linear. And this is in milliseconds. So the key with this type of thing is just about timing it. So really cool results that we're able to get with that type of track. Next up, I've got a basic beat over here. We'll go ahead and play this bypassed. Okay, now I've just dialed in something, again, just to exaggerate what's happening. Now I can also dial this in parallel. So this is dry. So I can push this really hard, aggressive-wise with my processing, then just dial it in. And you really have to experiment with these different shapes and the duration, because it's all about getting the right blend between these. So at first thought, I said to myself, well, you know, that's quite a lot of controls that I have to tweak, because some transient shapers, we just have, you know, an attack and a sustain, and we just bring the amount up. But once you kind of wrap your head around it and you understand the correlation between the sensitivity, the shape, the duration, and the amount, and then being able to blend things, once you kind of wrap your head around that, you can get some really cool results pretty quickly. And lastly, let's have a look at a pluck sound. So bypassed. So tons of sustain on that. And just to kind of do the opposite thing here, what I did is I completely pulled out the sustain. So I dialed up the attack a little bit, adjusted my sensitivity and shape to taste and the duration, and then I pulled the sustain down pretty much all the way. Now we can adjust our timing further on this. And our sensitivity. And once you get aggressive, you can see that it starts to kind of break up. But that can actually be pretty nice when you use it in parallel. So now let's go ahead. I'm going to bring that back to the original settings, and let's kind of do the opposite where we bring the sustain up. Pull down our output a little bit. And you can see as we raise the sensitivity and the attack, it's more aggressive. And then we can totally change the shape. This is the needle, the nail, and this is the blunt. So if we went to the needle and we adjusted duration, we can totally tweak and adjust the sound that we're getting. So an extremely versatile plugin. Takes a little bit to get used to, but once you kind of understand how this differs from other transient shapers, I think it's really cool. So what are my final thoughts? Well, I think this is a really interesting approach to a transient shaper. I would really like if they had some auto mode in terms of setting the sensitivity, pushing, you know, a one button push that would automatically adjust, because based on the sensitivity you have, you can have some drastically either aggressive or transparent results. Other than that, I really like it. I mean, it's a different type of plugin, takes a little bit more tweaking, but if you're the type of person that likes to really get underneath the hood and start moving dials around, you can really get some cool sounds with this. Anything from aggressive to subtle. But even just, you know, coming up with your own standard default setting that comes up, it can act as a normal transient shaper where you can quickly just adjust your attack and sustain. So really cool plugin. I think Waves have done a really good job with this, and I like the approach that they've taken with the different shapes and the different duration, and also these guard modes, because let's be honest here, there's a lot of different transient shaper type plugins out there. And I think it's a good thing that this differs from lots of the other ones that are currently out there. So anyways, that's my thoughts on the Wave smack attack. And I hope you guys got something from this, and we'll talk to you later. Cheers.